It's not about what you have, it's about who you have. It's not about where you live, it's about how you live. And it's not about what you do, it's about why you do it. Welcome to the Momentasize podcast. Today, I have a guest on here, who's a great friend of mine, somebody I look up to, somebody that's really helped me grow in a lot of areas, and somebody who's going to walk us through how he went from a W-2 to completely financially free in just under 3 years. Without further ado, please help me welcome Daniel Kong to the podcast, baby.
What's cracking, Dirk? Hey, dude, thank you for the generous intro. I mean, I look up to you in a lot of ways too. So, I mean, the feeling is 100% mutual.
Yeah, great. Well, yeah, that's what relationships are all about, right? Hey, for people who don't know who Daniel Kong is, give us a little bit of an origin story, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, just quick, brief story. I was a typical Asian kid, right? Get good grades, good job, go to school. My parents were I got good grades my whole my whole life, just I play sports, whatever. And then so went to college for 4 years, majored in computer science. Right after that, I went straight into being a software developer for a long period of time. And then the ending of 2018, I read this magical book you all probably heard, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then the whole idea of just you can actually, I was like, wow, you can actually work. I mean, you can actually not work and still make money, get an income. That whole idea to me was it was such a foreign concept. I never even considered it, but it kind of blew some of the limiting beliefs that I had about life and just things in general. I basically deep dove into the idea of passive income and real estate investing in general. And then just kind of grinded super hard while I was working on my W-2. In about 2.5 years, we built up a rental portfolio that was making more from my rentals than I was actually making as my job as a software developer. And then from there, I was like, okay, had a conversation with the wife. I was like, hey, hon, we got this income on the side. I think I'm ready to quit. What do you think? So she was like, no, I don't feel safe. And so another 6 months passed, and eventually we negotiated where I could leave my job and then just live off the rental income. And then kind of from there, we're just off to the races. And so that, I mean, since then we've done a bunch of different things, but that's kind of the real quick origin story of how I got started.
Boom, shaka, laka. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. One thing, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but one thing I want to touch on, congratulations on just that whole journey and becoming financially free. I think that's what a lot of people strive for, and well done to make it happen. What was it like, to go from, I think sometimes what happens is we want something, we start learning or listening. You read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but what were some of the ways that you took that knowledge and actually turned it into action? What was that like, and what did you have to do to make that actually happen?
I mean, that's a really great question. I think I see a lot of guys kind of get hung up in that step, right? Where they have the dream, they have the vision, but how you turn that into reality. And I think for me personally, it was number one is, a little backstory. I was doing a lot of youth ministry before that. And so I worked 40 hours in my job and then 60 hours running this youth ministry with these bunch of high schoolers and middle schoolers, right? And so long story short, I actually stepped down during that time. And so then that's when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I basically had all this free time in my hands, the 60 hours. I was what am I going to do with myself? So after I was super inspired by Rich Dad Poor Dad, I just poured all my energy that I was putting into youth ministry and poured it into just the world of investing. And I think it's just taking a real focus and kind of almost obsession with it is really what helped me to kind of pursue and have that multiplier effect where it happened faster. So just for those that first few months, I was reading literally 3 or 4 books a week, just consuming content, listening to podcasts. One's probably yourself, yours, and where there's so much information. You're drinking from a fire hose, but I was just so hungry to learn and just jump into this world. So I think just jumping in, just consuming as much as I can, and then as soon as I felt ready, just taking action and just making mistakes, making a lot of fumbles along the way when I first started, but then as you kind of go through it, as you're fumbling, you get better and you're asking different questions and you're learning.
Yeah, there's a great saying, knowledge isn't power. It's the massive action behind it, right? Knowledge is only potential power. And so that obsession is the key thing, right? You're taking it all in, but that action point is really, really important. Can you tell us about your first deal, the first deal that you did? Talk us through that, what that felt like.
Yeah, I mean, when I was reading all these books, I was basically one book that came to mind was really good was this book called All Estate Real Estate Investing by David Green. So I mean, I literally just followed what the book said to do, like from like the whatever it said. Okay, call agents. Okay, call contractors. I mean, I just basically listened to whatever he said to do. It's a great book to get started. And the one challenge I had was in the beginning, I didn't have any money or any savings, so there was no way for me to actually purchase the property. So actually, in the beginning, I burned a lot of bridges with some lenders because like, I thought you could do these things that you can't do and stuff. And so, long story short, I ended up taking a bunch of lines of credit from like my local banks. They're called personal lines of credit. And the way a personal line of credit works is, so I didn't have a house or anything to have leverage or equity against, but I was renting and I had a decent job and a decent credit score. So you go to the bank with a decent job and a decent credit score. They say like, I'd like to apply for a personal line of credit. They give you like 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 grand in just like unsecured line of credit that you can use. And so I applied for like, I went to like 5 banks in one day, applied to like for lines with all of them. One bank gave me like 10, one gave me like 20, one gave me like 25. And so I had like all these little lines, basically equaling to about like 110 grand in just lines of credit that I could like borrow and then put back. And then I took a loan against my 401k. At the time, it was like, I think I had like 100 grand in my 401k. The max you could take out on a loan is like 50 grand. And like the good thing about taking a loan against your 401k is there's no penalty. So if you take out money from your 401k to use, like you gotta pay like taxes and like a 10% penalty, whatever, early withdrawal. But if you just take a loan, there's no penalty to taking out a loan. So I took 50 grand from my 401k. I had like 110 grand for like my lines of credit. And then I was like, okay, so I basically had 160 grand of borrowed money that I could use to do my first deal. Long story short,
Yeah.
I went to Indianapolis because like so much cheaper. You know, we bought the house for 70 grand, sight unseen. Obviously, a lot of phone calls and like a lot of research. Put 30 grand into the renovation, so we're all in for 100, all borrowed money, and then it appraised for 140 at the very end. We did a cash out refinance for 105,000, so I got back 105,000, paid back my lines, paid back all the things I borrowed, and then it rented for $1,000, and my mortgage was like 720. And so I had a cash
Boom.
flowing rental, a little bit like a couple $100 a month, but then I owned it basically with none of my money in. And then they call it the burr strategy. And then I just did the same thing over and over in Indianapolis. I did 5 more of those like in that first year of 2019.
Just like that. So you got the first one closed. You took massive action. You got the first one closed, and then the addiction just set in. So you did 5. You were able to do. Was it a total of
So
5 in one year, or 6
six
in one year?
total. I mean, actually, when I started the first one, I was like, this looks like it's gonna work. Let's just start the second one. So I started the second one like in the middle of like the first, but I mean, like this minor details. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Just for anybody that's listening right now, Daniel just completely unpacked. If you have this fear of I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the risk appetite, Daniel just unpacked all the recipes that you need, right? If you have a 401k, how to borrow against that, or how to not make excuses if I don't have the money. Be creative and yeah, be entrepreneurial, build relationships,
yeah,
and take
yeah.
some risk. Go take out those personal lines of credit, right? This isn't a risk-free game, but it's definitely worth it as long as you sharpen your saw in your knowledge, right? Then it's worth taking that risk. And so, it's a great story, great start story there.
The
And
big thing is
what
too is
a
like the more information and the more knowledge you have, the less risk is involved. So like if you don't know what you're
yeah.
doing, it's super high risk, and I would not recommend it. But if you have the knowledge and you build like the base and what you're trying to do, then like that makes it way less risky. Just to kind of give you some context, like I was literally like in the beginning, I literally like probably analyzed, let's say like 200 or 300 deals a week in like just like in my market. And so like I knew that Indianapolis market so well because I'm looking at deals all day every day and just kind of like grinding it out, like just trying to like understand the nuances of the neighborhoods, the street by street, the pricing of things. And just like I was like so involved in that neighborhood that like when I did decide to pull the trigger, it wasn't like a I'm not sure this is gonna work. I was like, I'm sure this is gonna work given like nothing crazy happens, you know. So like I knew my numbers, I knew like the areas. I had a second opinion from some on the ground realtors, etc. So like it might seem risky because it's out of state, but because of all the work that I put in as far as like the research, the relationships that I built, and just like the education, it honestly, in my opinion, it was not that risky, you know. So
I couldn't agree more. I think it feels risky if you haven't sharpened your saw and your knowledge base, right? It feels risky if it could be risky if you haven't done, like you said, 200 to 300 deals that you analyze per day. If you were just to bite on the first deal you did and you had a bunch of unknowns and you had holes in the actual property, then yeah, it's risky. But you sharpened your saw. I mean, what you essentially did is you like rammed in. They say it takes 10,000 hours to master anything, and you just like became obsessed and revved up the amount of hours that you had to put in so you could start mastering that skill, right? I mean, how many hours do you think you put in into making it happen? How many hours do you think you put in?
So I mean, like if you look at it, it's probably I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in like September maybe of 2018. So like if you're looking at let's say I'm working like 60 hours a week on this thing, right? So 60 hours a week, and so September you're doing like October, November, December, January, February maybe. So or let's say 5 months, 60 hours a week times four. I mean, let me just get this calculator out of here. I mean, like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
60 hours a week times four times five. We're looking at like 1,200 hours of just like of grinding. The thing too you have to realize is that it's 1,200 hours of intense focus, obsessive work. Because there's 1,200 hours of like casual. I'll read a book here or there, but there's a difference between like I'm like obsessed with this thing and I dream about it. I think about it all the time, and then the all the little things you're learning, it compounds on itself. And so like the an hour of focused work is worth like 4 hours of like unfocused or like distracted work, you know? So like that 1,200 hours of focused work was like 10,000 hours of like distracted work, like, you know, so.
Yeah. 100%. And it takes what it takes, right? It takes what it takes. But what happens, I talk about this a lot, you know, there's this idea that effort has to come in a linear fashion. So you're putting in all this effort, and you would expect, like psychologically, we think that the results are going to come in the same fashion as our effort, but it actually doesn't happen that way, right? Like you're putting in all this crazy effort and you're not seeing any results, but then boom, after 1,200 hours of putting in all this crazy effort, 60 hours a week, which some people would say like is way too much, but you're obsessed with it, then boom, in an exponential moment it happens. And that's how you go from doing one deal to doing 6 deals in 1 year, right? Because of that obsession, not giving up and sticking in it. And all of a sudden, that effort you've been putting in, boom, it skyrockets, and the results that you were expecting to get, they happen in an exponential moment. So I think that it's one of those things. I've seen that many times in my life. Especially if I'm doing a new venture, it feels like very blurry to get to the end, and then you're expecting to see these results and they just don't come. So, you know, until that exponential moment, and then boom, then you look back and you're like, okay, it was all
And the
worth
thing
it.
is, like,
So
as you're going through this journey, you're just stacking skill sets, right? So, like, let's say there's so many different skill sets you're learning. There's just like the like comping, like the comparables. There's like negotiating, like building a relationship with like contractors. There's understanding renovations. There's like the lending side. There's all these like small skills that in and of itself is not super valuable. But when you stack them all together, that's when you get like the compound effect and you become like a lot more valuable. Like so, like quick like examples. Like let's say you're trying to like you're learning in school, like let's say you learn accounting, okay, that's one skill. Then you learn like bookkeeping, okay, that's another skill. Then you learn sales and marketing. Then you learn a niche, like let's say like bodybuilding or something. And so like when you stack them all together, you're way more dangerous and way more valuable because they all kind of feed in, they all vertically integrate with each other to create a bigger thing than just the sum of its parts. And so I think as you're like stacking these skills in the beginning, like they're worthless by themselves or they're not very valuable, but as you're kind of compounding them upon each other, they're all feeding each other together to make you like now your decision making and your understanding and the way that you can do business is so much stronger because of all the skills you stacked. In the beginning, you have 0 skills. Then I stacked all these skills. And then moving forward, I'm just stacking more and more and more. So every year, I'm stacking more and more skills, compounding my skills. Like Daniel 2024 is like a beast compared to Daniel 2019. You know, like I was clueless back then. So.
yeah, it's really well said. You made a video just recently where you talked about the ability to deal with problems as well, right? So the more you stack, exactly like you said, the more skills you stack, then the easier it becomes, the faster you can analyze deals, and the easier it becomes to deal with what used to maybe feel like a really big problem. I think the example you used was somebody like was a hoarder in one of your houses, right?
Oh,
So
bro,
when you
so
first
it's
started,
crazy. Let me tell you a story.
yeah,
So I get a
tell
call.
it.
I think
No.
it was like I don't know, it was like a Friday night. I'm like, because we're selling some of my portfolio in Indianapolis, right? I'm like, hey, like I'm talking to Pinetta. I was like, hey, sell those, like put money into your business. Let's like move your equity around. So like, I just sell all these properties, basically those that I built. And then so I get a call from a realtor. It's like, hey, bro, it's like bad news. Like we somebody broke into your house and they're squatting right now. And so like we're trying to get the police to go out there and see what we can do. And then I remember when I got that call, I was like, well, that's not like a nice Friday night call to have, but we'll figure it out. Like it wasn't a big deal. Like I was like, oh, I mean, it's a minor inconvenience at this point. And then I remember when I like after that we had that phone call, I was like, because he was like, oh, are you gonna be okay? I was like, dude, like, well, I need to have you on my podcast later, and it'll be like a funny story we're gonna tell. Like it was like honestly, it wasn't damping my mood, but he was like, wow, like you're taking it like a chat, man. I was like, I was more worried than you were, like and so he's my realtor, and so. But I was just like, after we had a conversation, I was like, wow, like that's like my where if that happened to me in 2019, yeah, I would be like essing bricks, like like what am I gonna do and stuff, But because we're where we are in our business and our experience and like our understanding is like, okay, just it's a small bump in the road. We'll figure it out. We gotta do eviction, whatever the process will look like. It's like it's not something that we can't handle or we haven't dealt with before. So it's not scary. It's just there's a time, money, and like a mental like cost, but like it's not nothing that's like scary. And so just making that realization of like how it affected me now versus where I was then. I was like, it was an aha moment for me to see like I've grown so much as an investor, as a business owner, that those are like the $10,000 problems where I'm dealing with like the $1 million problems right now, so.
Exactly, exactly. My coach, when I played soccer, he told me that to become a champion, there's a key to becoming a champion. And what he said was, you have to, with your emotions, you have to not get too high and you cannot get too low. Champions, no matter what's going on, they stay steady. They do celebrate what they want to see more of, right? And of course, we're human, so you deal with something that when it comes, it's hard. But you don't get too high with your emotions and you don't get too low. You stay even keel and steady, and those are the champions. Those are the people who can deal with things under pressure, who don't fold under pressure and make magical things happen. So, and like you said, that comes with becoming very good at the skill. At 2019, if that happened, that would have felt very stressful, very difficult, etc. But as you've stacked and grown, you're like, hey, just another problem. We're going to solve it, right? So, it speaks to that. Going on, so the first year, which it's pretty cool that you did that in your first year, right? I mean, you were obsessed, you didn't give up. And then your first year, you do 6 rentals, all by the way, not being there. You live in Hawaii. You're doing this in Indianapolis, which is pretty impressive. So if somebody's saying like my area is too expensive, I can't do it here. Guess what? The United States of America is a huge place, and you have no excuses, right? Daniel's proven that as a fact. Talk to us a little bit about then from there. How did it unfold to what you've built today? Because what you've built today is an amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, so like the way that I was like when we were doing the things and. You want to know like a little like hack like to do those things faster? I'll give you like a little.
Yeah, come
like,
on, give it. Of course, we want a hack, baby. Give us the hack.
One of the things is typically when you're doing like a conventional loan, you gotta wait like 6 months to a year to do the cash out refinance, right? Like you buy a house for 70, you put in 30, it appraises for 140. You gotta wait like 6 months or like a year, depending on like your thing to do the cash out refinance. But what you can do is a rate and term refinance immediately. So the way I did these things so fast was like let's say you buy it with like 70 and put in 30, and I want to take out 100 grand in a refinance. What I do is I put a lien on the property for 105, whether it's like my LLC or like my brother or somebody who's like not related to like who's not me. Then I can put a lien on that property for like that amount. When I go to the bank, I can say like, hey, Mr. Banker, I want to do a rate and term refinance, not a cash out refinance. So then like that bank can like refinance an existing loan immediately and not wait the 6 to 12 months that will take for like a cash out refinance. So small little hack on how you can
unpack that for me for a second. So what the rate and return is what it's called.
Rate and term refinance.
Rate and term, excuse me. So rate and term, because I haven't heard of this yet. This is a good little hack for me. See, that's what the blessing of being able to work with people all around is. Oh, you are always learning. So this is a new one for me. So rate and term, and explain that lien portion to me specifically. So what would you do with the lien?
So when you're doing a cash out refinance, right? Let's say the property is free and clear, right? I borrowed money from my 401k and I borrowed like things from my lines of credit. So I bought it cash 70 and put in 30 like cash. So there's no mortgage, there's no lien on the property, right? It's just free and clear. It appraised for 140. and then I want to do a cash out refinance for the bank to give me $105,000 in cash, which is 75% of the 140. But they're like, this sounds
Yep.
risky. You just bought it for 70 and you want us to give us the 105 in cash? That's too risky. We're going to require you to wait 6 months to a year before we'll take the new higher value of the 140, right? So that's what the bank is going to tell you. But then what you do is
Yep.
like say, hey, actually, I'm going to put my own lien, but it can't be like you. It has to be like either your LLC or like let's say you want to get your brother to put a lien on the property, whoever it is that you're partnering with. And so like make sure you do. And there's some nuance to this. I can actually walk you through it if you on how this works. So basically, I'll put a lien on the property. Like my LLC will put a lien on the property for $105,000. So now I owe my LLC DK Ventures $105,000, which is not me, right? So there's a lien for $105,000 on that property right now. And when I go to the bank, I say, hey, Mr. Bank, I don't want $105,000 in cash. I just want you to refinance out the existing lien that's on my property using the appraised value. And so they're, okay, if there's somebody else already put a lien on the property, it feels safer to us, we'll give you a lower interest rate and you don't have to wait the seasoning period. So they'll just say, okay, we'll refinance out the 105 lien on the property. So we'll give your lien holder, whether it's your brother or whether it's your LLC, whoever it is, put that lien on it. We'll give them the cash. You can never touch that cash yourself because it feels safe for us to refinance out an existing lien as long as you're not getting cash. So I can't touch the cash, but my LLC or my brother, whatever, they can get the cash because like that's their lien. So then you can actually do a hack to like do a rate and term refinance faster immediately as soon as like the renovation is completed on the property. And then now you don't have to wait the 6 months to a year seasoning period to do like the cash out. Was not a cash out, it's a rate and term refinance.
Boom, baby.
Makes sense?
Daniel is dropping bombs. If that's not making sense to you guys, just go re-listen and just look up rate and term. And as the more you go through it, it'll start to make sense. It makes a lot of sense to me. Essentially what you ended up doing is you took, whether it was an LLC or somebody who you're going to partner with in the future, like you said, a family member, they now have a lien, meaning they have debt on your property. And this bank, rather than going and giving you a cash out, meaning they're going to put cash into your bank refinance, they're actually just paying off this lien that either your LLC or your brother have, meaning that they're just paying back that $105,000 that this LLC holds on the property now. So really clever way to do it, and a great hack to speed up that 6 to 12 month seasoning period. So
otherwise that would take me like 6 to 12 months for every one, right? But now with that thing, I can do it every like couple months. And so like that's how I was able to do that first year. So
good. So the hack's there. Thank you for sharing that hack. What a great hack. Talk to us then about, you did those, and then, talk to us more. What was the next step? Obviously, you're addicted to the game. What was the next step for you?
So like at that point, I was like, dude, like the burrs are easy. Like these out-of-state investment things are like I can do these all day. So like each one will give me like let's say like 100, like $200 a month in like passive income, right? So like trying to get to 10 grand, I just need like 50 of these bad boys, right? So if I can do 50 of these things in Indianapolis, like that's what I need to reach financial freedom. And so I feel like I had like a system and a machine and kind of like all the pieces, but I needed more money to put into the machine because I was recycling the same 150 over and over. So I was like, if I had like, let's say like 300, I could do like 12 a year. If I had like, let's say like 500, I could do like 15 a year. So like the more money I had cash, the more I could kind of like supercharge this machine that I had built in like Indianapolis. So I was like, okay, well, Hawaii is like a terrible place for cash flow because the price to rent ratio is not really very good in Hawaii on average. Whereas like Indianapolis on average, the price to rent ratio is very good. But then Hawaii is a good flipping state because the price points are high, the profit is also high. So let me take the skill set that I learned in Indianapolis, try apply it to Hawaii, do a couple of flips. Now I've got like 200, 300 extra grand that I can kind of roll into my burn machine and just kind of like build up the rental portfolio over there. So that was my plan. I came to Hawaii.
What's price to rent, Daniel? Daniel, what's price to rent real quick for somebody who doesn't know, like price to rent?
What you can rent it for versus the price that you can buy it for. For let's say like in Indianapolis, you can rent it for, or the price is $100,000 and you can rent it for $1,000. So the price to rent ratio is, let's say like 1% because you can rent it for 1% of the purchase price. You go to Hawaii, let's say the purchase price is like $1 million, but you can only rent it for $3,000. Now your price to rent ratio is 0.3 as opposed to like the 1%, right? So like it's a big difference in parts to how much you can get in your rent compared to the purchase price of the property. So the higher the rent is compared to the purchase price ratio, the more cash flow you're going to get on the back end.
Yep,
Personally,
exactly.
yes.
And a good rule of thumb is that 1% rule, right? If you're listening to a lot of times people talk about having that 1% rule, exactly like Daniel just said, where you want your monthly rental income to be 1% of your purchase price. If you buy it
Yeah,
for $100,000, you want $1,000 of rental income. That's a quick, easy way to analyze
yeah,
whether or not it's going to be a good rental. But then in
yeah,
a market like Hawaii, right, where the sales prices are high, a lot of coastal areas have this, right? You're not going to get the 1% rule in Hawaii. It's like zero point 0.3, like you said. But
yeah.
you saw that and you said, okay, if I can take this, I need more cash. So Hawaii's not a good rental market, but what it is a good flipping market. And boom, you start looking for properties in Hawaii.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's a completely different market. The way you find deals and like and analyze them is very different. So I spent a bunch of time in Hawaii just kind of grinding my gears, like just trying to find my first deal. I got very lucky actually. My first couple of deals turned into like monster birds where I actually had massive like cash flow from these first few deals. And then it was I mean, so I was looking for flips. I actually like stumbled upon some birds. And then like it helped because like during COVID, some of the values went higher, et cetera, et cetera. So I had a little bit of like tailwind from like the economy. But I got very lucky. I did a bunch of birds in Hawaii that supercharged my cash flow to reach that 10 grand like faster than expected. And then from there, that's where financial freedom, negotiate with the wife, and then kind of like off to the races from there. So.
Daniel, how do you find most of your deals?
So in when I was in Indianapolis, there's wholesalers everywhere, right? There's like
Yeah.
I get like 10, 20 like deals in my inbox every day that I'm just kind of analyzing and see what makes sense. In Hawaii, there are no wholesalers. So you have to go out and find your own deals, whether that's on the MLS. At the time, I was doing PPC, which is pay per click, because I come from like a software developer background. So I was like, let me leverage my skill in the digital world and try and apply it to like the into like the real estate investing world. So I created like a website, ran some traffic to it, and so like if they type in like summer house fast, Hawaii, even if it's so we rank still pretty high in it right now. I have had a lot of upgrades and like changes from my initial website, but if you type in my summer house fast in Hawaii, we'll probably be like number one organic. So it's like we're gonna show up on the Google search results when someone wants to sell their house for cash or sell their house quickly. And so when they sell, they type it in, they fill out our form, then we have a conversation with them. If the numbers make sense or their situation like where it requires a cash offer, that it makes sense for us to buy it. So
Yeah, so you took your skills in software development and then you created essentially what took time, but you've created this lead magnet organically for anybody that's searching like, hey, sell my house fast. You took the time and you took the seasoning and now you have this essentially this amazing online asset that just feeds you these properties where somebody's having a problem, somebody's having a challenge, and you're able to very
yeah,
quickly have hot leads that
yeah.
you don't even have to pay for anymore because it's all organic, right?
Well, I mean, we do paid and organic, so we do both. I mean, just the organic is like I mean, just it takes longer to build, but the PPC you can just turn on and it's instant. So like there's pros and cons for both, and like I won't get too technical, but they both feed each other. So when you have the organic, it feeds your paid, and you're in the paid, it actually feeds the organic, and so. There's a whole nother like 3 hours of like breaking down the technical parts of it. But basically, we tapped into like my digital experience and like kind of like knowledge, and then just kind of like leverage that to kind of find us some deals in Hawaii. So.
Yeah, I mean, like a master entrepreneur. That's what they would do, you know. Was it scary though to go from like you figured out the rental market in Indianapolis, but what was it like then to go and start flipping? Was there new things you had to learn? Was it challenging at all? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like a completely different market. Like the price points, like the labor, the materials, like are way more expensive. And then just friggin' the thing is too is like typically in a Midwest market, like the all the neighborhoods are like they're a similar price because the houses look similar and like they're like very like similar to each other. It's easy to find out the ARV or the after repair value. But in Hawaii, like every house is so different, and there's so many nuances to figuring out that value that like in the beginning it's a big challenge to be able to like kind of navigate like figuring out the right Airbnb. It could be like 800 or it could be 1.3 million. There's a big range as what it could potentially be, and your neighbors are selling for 1.3 and 800 like all around you, and so like it's a navigating that and figuring that out, the nuances is like something that you have to just kind of dive into that market in Hawaii and kind of and figure out. And then just like the whole negotiation and like sales process, because when you're just buying from wholesalers, there's no marketing and there's no skill sales that you need as far as that part, right? But now that you're actually like talking to the sellers directly, number one, you need to generate the lead. So there's a skill set in the marketing. And then on the sales side, you number one, you have to build rapport, you have to build trust and credibility very quickly. You need to be able to like understand and like negotiate and really create deals, like buying things creatively or different things. And so like those are whole other skill sets that I did not have on my tool belt when I first started getting into the Hawaii market. So I had like the comping from Indianapolis, kind of managing some contractors, but then when I get to Hawaii, I had to learn marketing, sales, creative financing, the nuances of the Hawaii market. So there was a big challenge or learning curve when I first jumped into here.
Yeah. One thing I love about you, Daniel, and one thing that always inspires me every time we meet, you know, like you give me some nugget to really work on, specifically like how well you've decided to make, like one, you built your systems, but also your team and how that's all built together. It's amazing to be able to watch it, and the growth mindset you live, right? Like we met at just so everybody knows, we met at a small little mastermind. And when I met Daniel, you know, how many years were you into it? Was that your third year then?
It's hard to say. I want to say, do you remember what year that was?
I mean, I can't even remember. What I do remember is you had just done 1.1 million. So you'd done 1.1 million in profits. And then you were talking about what the next big steps were. And we were all masterminding there together on what the big steps were going to be. I think you were just starting to build your team. And then over the years, I've been able to watch you come in. And one of the best things about building those relationships and, you know, connecting with people, going to those masterminds or being on social media, actually, that's what led me to get on social media, is the nuggets you can take and learn. It's really a 2 + 2 = 10 situation, right? Because when you get to go and see what somebody else is doing, you can take that and you can say, hey, how am I going to put this into my own system? How am I going to make this happen? And so, you know, it's one of the things that I really, really appreciate about you. That leads me to the component. Sure, you had this technical way of getting leads, right? You built the organic, you're doing pay-per leads. But what about, talk to us a little bit about how you built the relationships in real estate and your social media journey.
I mean, so I had like an aha moment from this guy, his name like Ryan Pineda. So I went to I've been like that. So when I was doing my thing, I was like, I felt okay. I don't need, I was like, I don't need coaching. Bigger, I was in Bigger Pockets. It was like free, like forums, like books, like $10. Like, you know, like there's like all the knowledge and stuff is accessible and available. So I was like, I don't want to like get ripped off and pay like $5,000 or whatever for like a coaching program or something. And so, but I saw a lot of these rookies were, going to like this event that this guy Ryan Pineda was putting on in Vegas. And the thing is, I like going to like conferences and masterminds because that's where like you can like learn like new ideas and more importantly, build relationships, which you can't do just from books and just from learning, right? So like it's the relationships part of it is a key component when you're going to like these events. And so I went to an event, I think put it by Ryan Pineda in Vegas in on a January. I was like, he was just, when I went to the event, there was like this moment where I was like, there was a bunch of like very successful killers in business. These guys making millions a month, crushing business, zero social media presence, right? Then these little dinky flippers are like, they made like 40 grand like one time, and that's like their entire business thing. But then like they had a big social media following, and what I saw was like these little dinky like guys who were like not great at business, but they're high social media following. They got invited to the green rooms. They were like where people wanted to talk to and like have conversations and give resources and build relationships with. And I was like, wow, like there's actually like a big value in having like a social media presence over just like having business. And so like obviously you want both, but then like I just saw how that clicked for me, and then seeing how Ryan built his brand, like basically his whole like all his empire is built honestly off social media. So like it was like another aha moment. So I was like, okay, like there's something to this. Let's take this a little more seriously. I said, at the event, I committed to like posting every single day on Instagram and never missing a whole day for a year. So that's like the start of my Instagram journey. And then lots of challenges, lots of learning lessons along the way. I was terrible at first, like, you know, that's just how it is. But I made a commitment to post every single day for that whole year. And over the year, I got better at my craft. I started to like build more online relationships and like just just going to get faster, more skilled, like in everything. And then I got a few lucky reels that went viral, etc. And so I started to build a following. And so that's kind of how my whole journey onto the social media platform started. And it just continued to kind of build on the momentum that we already had.
Yeah, yeah. I remember meeting you. I didn't have social media. Similar to what you were saying, right? I was like, 6, 7 years. I'm like, it's a distraction,
Yeah.
And I had a similar aha moment where, like, if you have a business and you're not on social media, what are you doing, right? That was the whole point. And I remember then that hit me. I thought about it for a little bit. Then I got on social media. I had really no idea what I was even doing, right? But I remember watching you because you were a big inspiration for me, huge inspiration for me. And when I first started, I got on there, started following you. I remember you had like 5,000 followers, and the consistency, you just kept consistently putting out good content, getting a little bit better, putting out a ton of value, and slowly but surely, like anything, like we talked about, right? Somebody who puts in that effort, refines, gets a little bit better, 1% better every day. Next thing you know, it grows into what it's grown in today, which is what you're north of your 160,000 followers and opening up a ton of great doors for you, right?
It's crazy. I mean, like we just went to dinner last night actually with my wife, and then like someone at the other table was like, "Oh, like you don't know me, but then I follow you on social media. Can I get a picture?" I mean, like it's like. But the thing is, like you get an unfair amount of credibility that's not earned. So whenever like you're on social media and you're in front of people, you get trust and credibility that you didn't earn just by being like near them and in front of their face. Now they'll give you money, they'll give you resources, they want to partner with you. There's so many benefits to being like on social media that's like and even honestly like it's like I've got employees from social media, and like your brand that you're a part of, like people want to be a part of your brand just because you're on social media. So there's this intangible thing that you get just from having a brand or being like famous. So even like when you like I say you meet like Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie, right? Like they're just like when you meet them, you feel like a sense of awe. You feel like it's very cool to be a part of their team or being a part of like their sphere just because of they're famous, right? And so like we on social media, it's not to the same degree as Brad Pitt, but it's like the similar effect of just having like a name or like a notoriety. Now your team members, part of their paycheck or part of like their inspiration is being a part of like something bigger than just like a normal company, So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what I love about it so much is it provides these opportunities to connect with people that you would never be able to connect with. If you just stayed like locally small, the chances are you would never be able to connect or open up these doors that you can through social media. You can build a brand through it. You can really open up a lot of doors and build a lot of good relationships that that are amazing. I think that for me, I look back and I say, hey, what a silly thing to say it was a distraction when really it's a huge engine for any entrepreneur that's out there. You got to get on there and start putting it out there and just put out what you're doing at that time, right? And you'll get a little bit better. It is funny to go back. Like I'm sure if we went back and looked at, just like if you go back and look at the first videos I was putting out right there, it's funny. Like I remember trying to do it and just trying to get a little bit better every day, right? And it compounds just like.
It's the same with any part of your business. So like you look back at like the first house you flipped. I mean, actually, it's funny. I was telling the story about the first house I flipped to like an audience now, and I was looking at these pictures. Like at the time, I was like, dude, this is like the most amazing house that was ever designed. But I look back now, I was like, dude, it's trash. Like things are crooked. I used Formica countertops. I didn't even know there was another type of countertops. It's like I mean, like, but it's just like you get so much better over the reps and like the things you do. And so it's same with business, same with like networking, same with podcasting, same with like social media. Just putting the reps and being in the game for like an extended, consistent period of time, you just get so much better at your craft.
Yeah, just stay in it, right? Like just stay in the game. Do not quit on yourself. Don't let the devil creep in on you and bring those fears, and just stay in it, because you never know. Like I've had times where something's not going our way and I question myself. I'm like, am I supposed to be doing this? Or, you have all these things, and I that's what I call the devil trying to get into you, right? And trying to get you to quit or pivot or change, or you have all these things that are all this pressure. But as long as you stay with it, that challenging or dark time that you're in, you will come out to the other side of it. And, like you said, then when you look back in hindsight's always 2020, right? When you look back, you'll be like, either you'll say, hey, yeah, look how funny that was, or you'll say like, look how many good lessons I learned there. And I think that
There's,
sometimes what happens is people do quit though, and that's what I would say. If you're going through a hard time right now, just know there's light at that end of that tunnel, and don't quit on yourself. You deserve
there's
to
I,
fight through
I
it.
read this thing this guy wrote and one time. It was like this wise saying. He's like, in your life, there's like three phases or three kind of like situations you'll either be in. Number one is you're going through a hard time, right? Like currently. Number two is you just got out of going through a hard time, right? Like that you just completed it. Or number three is you're about to go into a hard time. So it's like you're either in a challenge currently, you just got out of a challenge, or you're about to get into a challenge. Those are like the three phases. So you just think of your life as like going through challenges and overcoming obstacles. That's life, man. You're either in one, you're just finished one, or you're about to get into one. That's how life goes, right? So.
That's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. Talk to us a little bit about, you went from, you did the Indianapolis, then you started flipping in Hawaii. What's happening today, and where's the business at today? What are you focused on? Talk to us about where you're at today.
So I mean, after I reached quote unquote financial freedom, like my original goal was just to live on the beach and drink Mai Tais and like kind of cruising for the rest of my life. That was like that was my carrot. I was fighting so hard. So I was like financial freedom, and I just want to like quit my job and just like do nothing, like just play video games or watch Netflix. That was my original like plans. And I was like, I'm so close to the end, like, and I reached it. What was crazy thing that's happened is because I worked so hard during those like 3 years of just focused work, the person who I was and what I had to become to be there was like, I was such a better like investor, entrepreneur at that time that I experienced. I was like, I can't just build this amazing like 3 years worth of like skill set and then just throw it away and do nothing. Like, I was like, I have to like utilize what I've done. And I had some momentum at that time. I had built a good name and some networking and relationships. And so I had momentum going in here. I was like, I can't just quit and do nothing. I was like, let's just scale this thing and go to the next level. And so like that's just like, hey, as opposed to doing so many flips, let's do like more. And so like that first year, just like let's try and do more and more. And so at the beginning, at that time, it was just like a one-man show doing everything myself, right? And so after I'm
Yeah.
trying to scale, I'm like, dude, like there's no way I can just handle all this work by myself. We need some help. So like let's hire an admin. Then it was kind of like a natural, like, what do I need next? Let's hire a project manager. And so I just slowly over that year, I think in 2022, I just started to hire the different team members. I think we probably met into like 2022 sometime when I was just
Yeah.
kind of
That's
starting
it.
to
You were
wrap
just
up.
getting it going. Exactly. You were just starting to plan for what it was going to look like.
Yeah, so I mean, just hiring like one guy at a time, and like eventually, just like as like the workload was like, okay, like we've got this, like we want to expand, hire the next person, and so just like now we have like a small team. We've had like a lot of challenge, like growth challenges. Like there's some team members who were great, some that stay with us, some of them that like left or like they were not a good fit, and so just slowly started to build a small team. So now we have a small team flipping houses in Hawaii. We're doing a little bit of ground up construction. We started getting into commercial out of state investing. And the big thing is like doing the birds in India were great. Like it got me to a certain level. When I'm doing flipping, the profit margins on our deals is like so much bigger than like the indie deals. Is like the 150-ish a flip. You do 10, you do like 1.5 mil, right? So I guess like there's a lot of opportunity here, but it's also capped over here too. And as we're kind of progressing through the entrepreneurship journey, I'm like, what's the next step? So like we want to do like $1 million deals or $5 million deals. Like how can we get to that level? So like the two kind of options we were weighing was multifamily syndications or office real estate commercial. And so like we are playing with both. At the end of the day, we did a little bit of both. But we like the commercial better. So like now we're doing like office retail in Kansas City. So that's kind of like another one of our focuses. So just trying to do
And
bigger
you're doing a
deals.
Yeah, and you're doing a phenomenal job of it. Just like I know the numbers on that deal and how you found it, and I think that one thing in real estate is sometimes what you have to be able to do is see what others can't see. Talk to us about that first commercial deal you bought in Kansas City. Break that up a little bit for everybody, and just talk to us about how you approached that one.
I mean, to be honest with you, like this is kind of like a trend or like a recurring pattern I think in my investor career is like don't reinvent the wheel. is like there's so many guys who are already doing it at a high level. Why not leverage either their experience or like their partnerships and things to kind of get like take you to where they are. And in the beginning, it started with books. It started with just like learning from like other like authors or people peers in the forums. Now I pay for like a lot of coaching, and like actually I joined like I had a buddy who was actually like doing these deals in the commercial properties in Kansas City. So I just basically piggybacked off his brokers, his contractors, his like inspectors and things, and like kind of like the went with him to like to find my first deal. Basically, it was like a deal that he had offered on like many times before. That the seller was they wanted like honestly like 1.1 million for like this office building. And then he offered many times before, and like they're like 500 cash, and they were like, hell no, like this we're never gonna let it go for that low, right? So I mean, obviously he's lowballing the whole market, right? And then so long story short, like I come in like 2 years later, like the come to look at the same building. I was like, hey, like let me put an offer in. So I offered like 600 cash, and so I guess they got tired of like they're mismanaging the property. Long story short, it's like they weren't doing a great job. So like screw it, we'll just take this guy's offer. So they took my offer, and my buddy's like, dude, like I set that up for you because like I've been offering on this thing for 2 years. Well, I mean, like, look, I mean, he's a great dude, you know. So like I mean, a good friend to this day and stuff. And so, but just like leveraging his like, well, he kind of went first, right? And so pick it up for 600. The goal is we're still like getting it re-tenanted. There's like we had some problems with our property manager. I feel like some hiccups along the road. The goal is basically just re-tenant it, and like it'll be worth 1.5 after it's all said and done. So like that's like the whole process for that guy.
Yeah, baby. You said two things. One, I would say, I spend tens of thousands of dollars on coaching as well, mentorship, et cetera, because I value my time so much that I'll trade what there's an abundance of to get a bunch of knowledge and fast track my ideas. And you do the same thing, and you're massively successful, and you're still spending a ton of money. I mean, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaching at times, right? So I think that sometimes people have a weird idea, like even what you initially said. Remember what you initially said? You said like, hey, I don't want to get scammed out of doing a coaching program. I mean, talk to us about that. What's the difference? But like, what do you still feel that way? I mean, and just talk to us about that a little bit.
I mean, the reason why I say that is because I seen like a bunch of guys like in my local community, they join these programs like 40, 50 grand off like a credit card, and then like they do nothing with it, right? They sign up for the program thinking it's going to change their life, and then nothing happens. They're just in debt 40, 50 grand, and their life is exactly the same. And so like I was like, that doesn't seem like worth it. And why would you pay that much money when you can just like get all the information for free? Because honestly, like all the information is out there. You just have to kind of like put it together yourself. And so I was super anti-coaching for like a long period of time until I started like getting around circles of more successful people. And the successful people, they all pay for coaching. Like they're trying to like get into and sometimes it's like you pay just for like a friendship or to get into certain rooms. And like I can't explain how like this like actually helps, but just being in certain rooms and having conversations with certain people, it literally like rewires your brain to like think or see the world differently. And like sometimes it's not even a tangible like practical like tool that you're learning. It's like an intangible or like I don't know what you call it, like the things where like your brain get rewired, and then now you're just able to accomplish and do and see so much more. And I think that's how it's like the camps we went to, like talking to guys like Self or talking to guys who are doing like things at a bigger level. Now I'm just paying to be in the same room as them, like so like I paid like there's like a $10,000 ticket to just have dinner with these guys, right? Like in the last WealthCon, so I sat with Tim Grover, right, Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan's coach. I mean, like this guy Dan Martell, he had three nine-figure exits like of companies. Like a few guys like Ryan Pineda. I mean, this Pace Marby, Jim O'Dowd, a bunch of just like guys who are just crushing it on a different level. And then what happens is like when you kind of like talk and have conversations with them, honestly, there's a lot of like real practical advice they can give you at your stage. But like you just dream and you shoot for like a higher like target. And you believe you can get there, which is so important. And so now it's just like trying to get to the next level. It just involves more of like I see how much it's just more mental than actual practical tools as far as like what's going to like make you like more and more successful. And so just understanding that and seeing how like you can apply that. I mean, paying for time, paying for speed is like the thing that I'm big on now, because I see all the successful guys pay money to get to like to the level where they're at and trying to improve it in their businesses.
Yeah, 100%. When we met at the beginning of this year at your podcast, when I reflected on 2023, that was one of my biggest lessons was thinking back. I said, hey, what's the one thing I regret? And the only thing I regret is not making the most of my time, right? And I realized that in this world, there's an abundance of money and there's an
Yeah.
abundance of opportunity, but you
Yeah.
only have a limited amount of time. So why wouldn't you take, like we just talked about, why wouldn't you take this money that you can always make more of and gain back the time? And when that hit me, right, it's exactly like you said, continuing. The most successful people who live in a growth mindset, they elevate by continuously investing in themselves, right? It's a
Yeah.
key thing. And sometimes that can feel hard, especially when you're first getting started. It can feel extremely hard because you're stacking this cash up and you're trying to get your first deal done. And now you have to go and you have to try to think about paying this money to go and get access to this masterclass or this coaching program. But to me, investing in yourself is always worth it. But you have to, like you said, though, actually have the actual spirit and energy to do it.
Yeah.
You can't just
Yeah.
pay for the program and think that it's going to solve your problems. No, you got to
Yeah.
put the work behind it, right? So, it's a magical thing. Speaking on that, like somebody who's been listening to this, obviously they're like, when I talk to you, I feel inspired, energized, ready to go do some more deals. Let's create like a quick, somebody who hasn't done no deals yet, they just heard this. Let's create like a massive quick action plan of next steps for them. What do you say to this person? They want to get in the game. Let's create a quick step-by-step massive action plan for them.
Bro, so like this is like kind of like it's super cliche and like you hear people talk about this all the time, but like it's your why and your mindset is more important than the actual like practical tools. And so I think like it's very easy to like give like, somebody I can give you like a blueprint, like you do this, you do this, you do this, and like they'll be successful guaranteed. But the problem is once they give that to you, like you're not gonna do it. Like honestly, like I'll call you out right now. You're not gonna do this plan that I'm gonna give to you. So you gotta dig deep down number one first and figure out like am I driven enough to actually do this plan and like why do I want to do this? Because I'll give you like a game plan like right now, but like I'll tell you right now, like guys are not gonna do it because like they're gonna give up. And so like the first step I think is figuring out, sitting down with yourself and saying, hey, this is my goal, this is what I want to accomplish, this is why I need to do this. And like you either every day you gotta like pump yourself up or find some kind of inspiration. Like I listened to this YouTuber Ben Lionel Scott. He just puts together like 3 to like $5 minute inspirational like things. I think just listen to that in the morning before you start this thing, just to kind of get yourself like emotionally driven. And so the thing is like when you look at someone's like success or like what moves the needle is information is never the thing that prompts action. It's always emotion. So I'm going to give you a ton of information now. You're not going to take action, I guarantee it. But you need the emotion to kind of like to behind it to become successful. So simple game plan, right? So number one, you got to learn how to comp properties. 100 properties a day. 100 properties, you're gonna analyze it. You're gonna find like an analyzer. You're gonna like find like what's like the ARV. Find out what it is, what property is gonna be worth after it's fixed up for your market, and analyze 100 a day. Do this for 2 weeks. Just analyze 100 properties a day. Like don't even like put in offers. Don't even think. Just like figure out, understand your market. Analyze 100 a day. If you do like 99 or you do like 10 a day, like it's not going to get it done. Like do 100 a day, like analyze 100 properties. You're going to struggle in the beginning. It's going to be like difficult, but you do it for 2 weeks. You just analyze 1,400 properties and you're going to be like a way better like understanding of your market, of like analyzing the deals. Next, you're going to actually, that's comping 100 properties a day. Next, you're going to analyze. So you're going to comp and then analyze 100 properties a day for the next week. So then this is you're gonna put it through like your deal analyzer. You're gonna like, okay, like let's if I put this rehab, this things, and you're gonna analyze another 100 like a day for like the just putting through the whole analyzer, not just like the comparables, the kind of ARV. So after 3 weeks, you've analyzed 100 a day of comps for the first 2 weeks. Then you've analyzed or put in like figure out what you need to buy it for the next week. And the thing is like if you do this over like the course of a year, right? So 100 a day. You like there's like 1,400 like properties that you like kind of work through in 3 weeks. You can do this over the course of a year or 2 years or 3 years. And if it takes you that long to get there, like I've done what you would have done in 3 years in 3 weeks. So like I'm way ahead of you. And plus the compound effect of when you're like kind of living, eating, and breathing it, it just like you start to subconsciously absorb your market, absorb and like see the nuances of things that like you're not gonna be able to see if you did over a long period of time. So then after you've done a week of just analyzing deals, now you're gonna start offering or like looking for wholesaling deals. So if you're in the wholesale market, then you're gonna start to like just get on every single wholesaler list, and you're gonna offer on half of the wholesales that come in, which you should be getting like 20 in your inbox every single day. Just like Google my Summer House Fast, Oregon, Summer House Fast, whatever, Hawaii, like wherever you're at, just find wholesale deals, and then you're gonna get 20 in your inbox every single day, and you're gonna make offers on 10 of them after you run your Airbnb. And you do that for another 2 weeks, and just a matter of time before you get your first deal. Once you get your first deal, now you're going to learn about lending and all those other parts of things, but just get your first deal or find an experienced investor in your market who will partner with you on this first deal, because they'll help you walk you through that process as far as like the funding, the construction, like help you like navigate those things. But you did all the hard work of finding this deal in the first place, and you understand your market so well. When you have the conversation with like your partner or with like the lenders, is like, this is why I analyze, this is what I understand because I put in all this hard work. And like, you need to do this in a condensed amount of time to really reap the benefits of it. If you do this, if you're like, I was going to do 10 for like 10 a day for like 100 days, or like, I mean, just, it's not the same thing. Like you literally have to do 100 a day, every single day, and then just compound that. And like, if you don't have success, then come talk to me after you've done that, and then we'll re-game plan you. But I guarantee you have some success if you follow this game plan. So.
Boom, baby. Daniel Kong just gave you the step-by-step key performance indicators that you need to do to get a deal done. But think about why Daniel started with having a why. Because to do all that work, focused real work, you have to have a reason that's driving you deeper than just this idea or this thought or this wishy-washy thing. You have to have a deep, strong why on why you're going to do it, because all that work is hard. And when you're doing analyzing 100 deals, when you're tired, when you're done with your workday and you still have to analyze 100 deals, what's going to drive you emotionally to do it? And I think a great resource, it's okay, by the way, if you go and ask yourself and you don't have an answer yet, that's okay as well. There's a couple resources you can use. You can use Start With Why by Simon Sinek, amazing book. And for me, my why hit me in the face. Sometimes it'll just hit you in the face. Like for me, the why was when my first son was born. It was an exponential moment. The why was literally born, and then my fire was lit. So if you don't have that answer right away, it's okay. Like don't just feel, if you're sitting there trying to answer, keep asking yourself, keep refining the skills. Go on YouTube, like Daniel said, and it's inside of you there. Just give yourself a little bit of time. But you can see, like Daniel said, the blueprint is there. Like if you look at 100 deals a day and do exactly what Daniel said, you do that for 100 days, and then you start getting involved with everybody that's in the wholesale game, and you make
3 weeks, bro. 3 weeks. Just do it for 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks. There you go. Exactly. But you have to do it also with real focus and attention. You can't just BS this thing. It's a real thing. Yeah. So, there's the blueprint. But I agree so much with you, Daniel, that if you don't have a why behind that, you won't figure it out. And the book that Simon Sinek talks about, he says that if you start with why, right? Most people, what they do is they do it inside out. They start with what they want to be. Then they write out like how they're going to do it. Look at 100 deals. And then you ask them like why they want to do it, and they don't know. Where if you start, that's why they burn out or they don't get it. If you start with why you want something, then you'll have all the passion and energy to figure out how you're going to get it done, and you'll just become what you want to become. And so it's the truth. It's what drives me every single day, especially when they're hard days. And that's such good advice, man. I really appreciate you saying that. Thanks for giving us both the passion you need and the blueprint you need, baby.
No, I'm excited for guys who like take it seriously, because the opportunity is like, the cool thing about real estate investing is like anybody can do it. Like there's certain things where like, let's say like private equity or some things where you need to be able to have like these relationships with like some rich people or whatever. But like real estate investing, like whether you have like a 800 credit score or if you got a 400 credit score, whether you make $100,000 a year or you make like $10,000 a year, that real estate investing is a game that anybody can get into if you just put in the work. It just rewards like consistent and focused effort. And so like that's one of the things that's very cool is like you work at McDonald's, you can become a real estate millionaire. You work at Wall Street, you can become a real estate millionaire. It's just there's no divider in like the in like the opportunity that's available for every single like American citizen, at least, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Well, Daniel Kong, man, thank you so much for coming on. I really cherish my relationship with you. I look up to you. I love the time I get to spend with you. I know it's just the tip of the iceberg for you in the business side of things. For anyone that wants to connect with you, where do they find you? Where can they connect with the Daniel Kong?
Best to probably be on Instagram, Daniel Kong 808. Yeah, hit me up over there and give me a DM or shoot me a follow, and yeah, we'll be friends.
Good, man. We'll link that. We will definitely link all that in the podcast. Thanks again for coming on, man. Thanks for dropping all those bombs. Everybody, go back and listen. He dropped some real bombs for us on there. So go back and listen. And I really appreciate you, Daniel.
Same, bro. Same, bro. Appreciate you, and it's just fun to see your journey too. It's fun to build up alongside your friends. So thank you for the invite.
Yeah, we'll have another one for sure. And with that, we will see you on the next one, baby.